Hi, folks. Thank you for joining me today for the live show. I have got a very special guest, but let me open with this. We're all familiar as Americans with the word jihad, and we've even been given a definition of what it means. But would you be surprised to learn that the definition that our media gives us of jihad and many of the experts that they bring on the air to confirm this definition are wrong? Jihad is often described as a spiritual struggle, but it is not a spiritual struggle primarily. What it is an unapologetic declaration of war against anyone who does not bow the knee to Allah. Now, that probably makes some people nervous right off of the bat. But we're going to talk about this and unpack all of this for you today on Dr. Mike Live. My guest is IQ al-Rassouli. He is an Iraqi exile, Arabic speaker, scholar, and author of the trilogy Lifting the Veil, The True Face of Muhammad and Islam. IQ says, quote, "The Quran is not a holy book. It is a roadmap to total war with Western civilization." Leaving Iraq as a young man to study abroad at university, IQ took advantage of the opportunity to compare the Bible to the Quran. What he discovered shocked him and set him on a 30-year examination of the Quran, Hadith, Arab and Islamic histories, Arab-Israeli conflict, the Hebrew Bible, New Testament, Zoroastrian religion, and pagan Arabian religion. IQ resolved to dedicate his extensive knowledge to the mission of saving Western civilization by exposing the facts and reality of Islam to a Quran-ignorant world based on the primary Arabic language sources themselves. IQ laments the greatest tragedy, and this is a quote, "The greatest tragedy in the West for the last 65 years has been self-destructive political correctness regarding any and all facts about Islam. We are witnessing the conquest of the civilized world by Islam through stealth jihad, aided and abetted by our treasonous leaders." Boy, I could have wrote that. Fantastic comment. Humanity, to continue the quote, "Humanity is seemingly headed to a nuclear World War III because of the inability or unwillingness of our leaders to understand the fundamentals of Islam, though they be crystal clear." End quote. Bravo, bravo, and bravo to you, IQ. IQ, thanks for joining me today on Dr. Mike Live.
My pleasure. God bless you, sir.
Well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate your courage because IQ is an alias, it is a pseudonym. You are actually subject to death threats, and so you are incognito intentionally so that you can continue to deliver this message that not just Americans, in our current context, America certainly, but all the world needs to hear concerning the Quran. So how would you begin? Someone approaches you, IQ, and they say, now, wait a minute. How can you say that the Quran is not a holy book? How would you answer that?
Simple. I will pay him $200,000 if he can find a single operative verse in the Quran that shows any compassion and mercy towards unbelievers, kuffar. When he finds that verse, I will convert to Islam. And I'll pay him $200,000. I've had $1.5 million worth of challenges for 10 years. They're on the internet. It's not a brag, it's not a boast. I have not had a dime taken away from me. I made challenges in public to CAIR, C-A-I-R, the Council of American Islamic Relations, ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, and other Muslim organizations. In public, not a single imam ever came against me or a scholar of Islam. The question is, how is it possible if I'm wrong, nobody will take up $1.5 million worth of challenges? You tell me.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Because if it were true, you would have paid out already. Absolutely true. So political correctness, it rules the day in America, especially in American politics. It's as if people are afraid to speak out and tell the truth. What is your take on that, IQ? Why is that exactly? Can you help us to understand why that is?
Yes, honestly, look, it sounds like a boast here as a foreigner, somebody who is looking at the Americans from the outside in and is pontificating. But my pontification is based on facts. The reason you have political correctness is you had 65 years of indoctrination in your schools, in universities, by teachers and scholars and professors who were leftists, globalists, unpatriotic. And again, I dare any American listening to me to prove me wrong. I have never had anybody debate me to prove me wrong. Now the question is why? The only people I can talk to are American radio talk shows like yourself. I cannot have 5 seconds in any radio talk show in Europe. Not even 5 seconds. They won't give it to me. If you think you have political correctness, in Europe it's even worse. It's completely dead. Brain dead people. But you see what's happening. The left, so-called Democrats, leftists, socialists, whatever, they pervert the English language, literally pervert it, in such a way that people will think that what they are telling you is the truth, when in fact it's the exact opposite. I'll give you an example, simple. Every Islamic entity, organization, or scholar of Islam talks about Islamophobia and accuse anybody who tells the truth. I'm not talking about going against Islam, not at all. Am I against Muslims? The answer is no. I am revealing the facts of Islam. Now, if somebody is revealing the facts about Mein Kampf from Hitler, does that make that person anti-German? The answer is no. So let's talk about Islamophobia. Google phobia. Not my words, the dictionary. Phobia is invariably irrational fear. Irrational, not just fear. It's irrational fear. Arachnophobia is irrational fear of spiders. And there are maybe 2,000, 3,000 other irrational fears in psychoanalysis. But fearing Islam, who wants you dead or subject to Sharia, is not irrational, is totally irrational. Hence, Islamophobia is an oxymoron. This is based on facts, not emotions, not my verbiage. This is fact. Tell me if I'm wrong.
You are not wrong. You're absolutely correct. And that's why you've not been able, or you've not been challenged successfully in what you've continued to teach and information that you've continued to present. And once again, I admire you for doing that because it has come with a cost, hasn't it?
Yes, you won't believe it. Every talk show I had to pay $100. I had to pay $100 to the agency to teach Americans about Islam. Can you believe it? Wow. Obama goes and gives a talk, which is garbage. He gets $500,000. I am giving information to save people. I paying my own money because we already so far $55,000 in the last 10 years. $55,000. I'm not worried about it. Thank God I can afford it. You say you are brave. The answer is thank you very much. But the way I look at it is very simple. Young American men and women put their lives on the line practically every day, everywhere on the face of the earth. Why should my life be more superior to theirs or more precious than theirs? This is how I look at it as warfare. Muslims speak about jihad. I agree with them. This is my jihad, their destruction. They want our destruction. Sorry, they want our destruction by physical means and by deception. I will have, and I do have, their destruction with their own words. Believe me, when you read my books, forget about even reading the books. If you go Google my name, Al-Rassooli, ALRASSOOLI, you will find all the information free of charge, all of it, but divided into different places. 248 audio videos on YouTube. It destroys Islam left, right, and center, up and down, completely. Somebody asked me, how can you say that? As you just mentioned, how can you say that? Well, I'm not saying it for sake of saying it out of hatred or disrespect. I'm saying it based on knowledge. Take the word jihad. They tell you jihad is a spiritual struggle. Well, let's go to the Quran. Always I go to the Quran. Always I go to the sources, which is Sharia. Sharia is based on the Quran and Muhammad's Sunnah. Sunnah is a tradition about what Muhammad said, what Muhammad did, whom he loved, whom he murdered, how he murdered, and so on and so forth. So these two are the foundations of Sharia, which are the rules that guide the Muslim, male or female, every day of their life until they die. I'm quoting now, reciting from the Quran. And anybody listening can Google it, it's not a problem. Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 216. And I'm reciting. Jihad, holy fighting in Allah's cause, is ordained for you Muslims, though you dislike it. And it may be that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and that you like a thing which is bad for you. Allah knows, but you do not know. Well, you know, translating it from Arabic to English or Arabic to any of the other languages, 70 or 80 languages, the meaning does not change. It is ordained, it's mandated that every Muslim commits jihad. Now, there are two types of jihad. Warfare jihad, like the terrorists do, the ones who strap bombs on themselves or bring planes into buildings or destroy trucks and people. This is warfare jihad. But the most destructive, even more insidious, is this stealth jihad. What is stealth jihad? Ilhan Omar from Minnesota in Congress, she wears her hijab. The fact that she wears hijab means she is Sharia compliant. But Sharia compliant means she swore on the Quran allegiance to America. Now this is bullcrap. You cannot swear on the Quran allegiance to any nation outside Islam. She lied because the Quran is the nemesis of the American Constitution. It's that simple. Yes. 337 million Americans, and I said that it's on my radio talk shows if somebody wants to double check it. I said out of 337 million Americans, not a single one has had the backbone or the knowledge to stand up and say, Ilhan Omar, you're Sharia compliant, you are a traitor. Finished. End of conversation. And you know what? No human being can prove him wrong like no human being can prove me wrong. Give you another example. And it's based on Islamic sources. This is from Hadith, the traditions. I'm quoting chapter and verse. Sahih Muslim Hadith 4631. Abu Hurairah says, I heard Muhammad say, I love that I should be killed in Allah's cause, jihad. Then I should be brought back to life and be killed again in jihad, to be brought back in life and be killed again in jihad. Well, what is ambiguous about this one? Nothing about Islam is ambiguous when you read it. Now I take another source. Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 4.50, narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, a single endeavor of fighting in Allah's cause, qital fi sabilillah, jihad, is better than the world and whatever is in it. Well, tell me please, doctor, is there anything you don't understand?
Seems very clear to me, IQ.
But why
very
is it
clear
to our leaders? Both in Western Europe and in America, but it is crystal clear. The intention Let me put it another way. I know what I say sounds outrageous. I know. I've been dealing with this for 30 years. It sounds outrageous, especially to Judeo-Christians who are based on the Bible, but there is enough love in it. Did you know there is not a single word love in the whole of Quran of 70,000 words between man and human being, or between man and God? The word love does not exist in the Quran. It's in the Bible, full of it. So how can anybody with 2 brain cells of logic and a bit of decency come to the conclusion that Islam means peace? Islam doesn't mean peace. Islam, from the verb aslama, means submission. It has nothing to do with the word peace, ever. It means submission. Submission to what? To the will of one God called Allah. Now, they tell you Allah is the same as the God of the Bible. In the English language, again I say, bull crap. Because Allah cannot possibly be the same as the God of the Bible. There is love with the God of the Bible. There's freedom of thought with the God of the Bible. There is no love from Allah, and there is no freedom whatsoever from Allah. Every human being who is called a Muslim, or they say they are Muslims, they are followers of Muhammad, must submit to Sharia. Sharia is the most disgusting, most despicable. It's hate-mongering, warmongering, misogynist, racist, hypocritical, duplicitous, intolerant, vile, and hence totally ungodly. Sounds outrageous, doesn't it? Again, $200,000, another $200,000. Prove me wrong. I'm going to have $1.5 to $2 million with you now. I'm not kidding you. Take $200,000 for jihad to prove me wrong. That's $600,000 already. It can't be done. And yet people behave like stupid animals and are in denial. Why are they in denial? Every imam, Google it. This is the most remarkable thing about Islam. If you Google on YouTube what imams tell you, every imam says in public, in Arabic, in English, in French, in every language, that the sole purpose of Islam is to bring Sharia to all of humanity. So, in Islam, you either submit to Sharia or you are exterminated. The word is exterminated. ISIS, they tell you ISIS is an abnormality. Again, ISIS is the most perfect Islamic entity. How do I say that? Why do I say that? I'll tell you why. While Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda followed the Quran word for word, ISIS follows the Quran letter by letter, word by word, and comma and dot by dot. They are so accurate. So when people tell you, yes, can you reform Islam? Yes, ISIS is Islamic Reformation. What was the Reformation by Martin Luther? Not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther Protestant. Reformation means going back to the source. It doesn't mean making it free. It means going back to the source. The Catholic Church was not going back to the source. So you had the Protestant Revolution. What is ISIS? It's the Islamic Revolution.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Sorry, I have taken so much of your time, but I mean...
No. That's why I invited you on, because I want you to share the wealth of information, background, and understanding that you have on this subject. I do have a question, IQ, because you ask it. I've got an opinion. I want to hear your opinion. Why won't Western leaders speak out? Why won't American politicians speak out and say the truth about what Islam is? Is it because they're cowards? Is it because they're fearful? Is it because they're deceived? Is it because they're being paid to keep their mouths shut? Or is it some other reason? Why won't politicians, whether it's American politicians or European politicians, with few exceptions, there are a few who are speaking the truth, tell the truth about Islam. What's your opinion?
I can't figure it out. Can you believe that? I can't figure it out because it's irrational. Why
It
would
is irrational.
anybody? Take an example now. Europe under Angela Merkel brought in over 1.5 to 2 million people from Muslim world. From the Muslim world. It's like somebody injecting oneself with the Ebola virus and says, nothing will happen to me. It's the Ebola virus, but nothing will happen to me. The same thing in America. I wish I could figure it out, but I can't. Only if somebody wants to commit suicide for whatever reason would do that. I can't answer it. I promise you, I've thought about it and thought about it. I couldn't figure it out. Even in America. Now, Americans have infinitely, compared to Europeans, infinitely more freedom. I'm not kidding you. In Europe, in England, or in France, if you say anything about Islam, not against Islam, about Islam, they put you in prison. Tommy Robinson, a very patriotic Englishman, they have been hounding him. The law in Europe now is illegal. They don't have justice. They have no justice. You can curse Jesus and insult Mary and insult Moses. No problem. You speak about Muhammad. I'm not talking about insulting Muhammad. Speak about Muhammad and you're in prison. I can't answer it. It is irrational, but that's what's happening. The point is, it is up to the American people, we the people, not to sit on their backside, but to stand up and be counted. You know, I've always said it in my radio talk shows. Do not underestimate yourself as an individual. Combined together, you elected Donald Trump against all odds. Against all odds. I remember watching the election results. 98% probability it was for her to win, Hillary Clinton. 98%. Even to the last few hours. 98%. They were all sure. The leftists were 100%, well, 98% sure. But what happened? Didn't happen like that. Americans talked. How did they talk? They proved themselves in the ballot. Again, in 2020, my prediction is very simple. As long as the economy is good, there is no chance in hell that the Democrat Party will win. Donald Trump will win with a landslide. He will wash them back into the sewer. As long as the economy is good, no chance the Democrats will win. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. We've got a lot of work to do. And thank you for saying that. It is up to we, the people, to stand up and stand against what is happening. We mentioned stealth jihad earlier. That I think that's a good descriptor of exactly what is happening in America. Jared, I sent a link for the training camps. There it is. Yes, there are at least, now this is somewhat dated, but there are at least 22 Islamic Jihad training camps in America. And folks, there's probably one pretty close to where you're at. We've got one here in Cleveland, Ohio, here in Ohio, and there is one in Michigan, which is just north of us. There's one over in Indiana, to the west of us. So we're surrounded here. There are 3 right there. There are several in Texas, several in California, Oklahoma, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, New York, Massachusetts. Folks, right under our noses is a stealth jihad. They're not meeting there to figure out how to build campfires and make s'mores. They're meeting there to train for the overthrow of a free republic, which is what America is. We need to stand up and do something about that. Do you have any suggestions, IQ? How could Americans, what should we do right now to expose this? Talk to folks in the workplace, talk to our families and friends, get on radio programs. What else could we do, IQ, to hold our elected representatives accountable until they do something about it? Do you have any suggestions?
Simple, honestly, it's simple. I'm not, by the way, I'm not glorifying myself. I'll tell you why not. Michael Flynn, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, before he was removed from office for the trick they made against him.
Mm-hmm.
I have the link. It was sent to me by one of my friends in the intelligence service in Canada. The link was to a comment that Michael Flynn made before he was removed. He said to his followers in the intelligence service, if you want to know about Islam, Google IQ. This is the ultimate compliment.
Yes, it is.
It is the ultimate compliment. By the way, if you want, I will send you the link just to make sure that you understand what I tell you is always the truth.
Yes.
Now, jihad, I want Americans to think about jihad. You got to visualize it. Jihad is like a spear. The spear is made of two components, the tip and the shaft. The tip of the spear alone and the shaft alone are not deadly, but the tip and the shaft together are a deadly weapon. The tip of the spear is the war jihadis, the terrorists. But these terrorists could not possibly do what they are doing without the shaft. What is the shaft? The stealth jihadis, the ones who give them information, intelligence, shelter, economic help, armaments, and so on and so forth. And who is or who are the stealth jihadis? The so-called moderate Muslims. Ladies and gentlemen, again, although it sounds outrageous, again, I give you $200,000 to prove me wrong. There is no such thing as a moderate Muslim, extremist Muslim, radical Muslim, or militant Muslim. Just as you never read or heard about a radical, moderate, extremist, or militant Nazi or communist. Why with Islam? This is part of the indoctrination, right?
Yes.
As if Islam is something special. No. The moderate Muslims are the jihadi spear. They are the shaft of the jihad. They are the stealth jihadis. Ilhan Omar and the Muslims in the American Congress and the Muslims in America. It sounds outrageous, but this is a fact. And again, I want people to prove me wrong. Just because I said a fact doesn't mean it's a fact, but prove me wrong. They, without their help, the jihadis couldn't do anything. They couldn't. Hence, it is irrelevant how many Muslims are war jihadis, whether 5%, 10%, or 20% of Muslims. Because the remaining stealth jihadis, the 95, 90, or 80%, are the ones who silently but diligently back them up. Every Muslim is therefore mandated by Sharia to be the mortal and eternal enemy of every non-Muslim, kafir, infidel on earth, 80% of current humanity, which means every Muslim is mandated to be the mortal and eternal enemy of all Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, Zoroastrians, pagans, anybody who's not a Muslim. Is that understood?
Clearly. Clearly.
It's clear. It's clear. We agree. It's clear. But our leaders keep the mouth shut. By the way, when American intelligence wanted to check on mosques, I sent you the article about mosques and madrasas. Mosques are the training ground or the indoctrination centers to bring up new jihadis. Every mosque on earth. Why? Because what does the imam in the mosque recite? The Quran. And what does the Quran teach the Muslims in the mosque? To hate non-believers. It's simple. It's not complicated. Muslims in their countries are persecuting anybody who's not a Muslim. For example, today in the 21st century, the most persecuted people on earth are not Jews, they're Christians. Christians are the most persecuted people on earth of the 21st century by whom? Muslims. And yet, the Pope keeps his mouth shut. The Catholic Church keeps its mouth shut. The Protestant churches are keeping their mouth shut. And the European leaders and the American leaders also keep their mouth shut. Ask me why. I don't know. You tell me. I find it outrageous. I find it disgusting. They're keeping their mouth shut. What are they afraid of? People sometimes tell me, well, they are afraid of stuff. Wait a minute. If Muslims in America constitute 2% or 3% of the population, you're afraid of them now. What will happen when they are 15%?
That's right.
Why should we be afraid of Islam when they are not afraid of us? They are 20% of humanity. We kuffar are 80%. Something else they have got to explain to you guys. 20% of humanity, Muslims, in 57 Muslim majority states, are the least productive, least inventive, least creative in human history. And they are threatening us, the kuffar, the 80% who are not Muslims, who are the most powerful, most productive, most inventive in human history. So tell me, why is that happening? I ask you the question, it's rhetorical, but tell me.
Well, IQ, here's, because I'm a Christian Protestant pastor, it has a spiritual component to this, and I would say that it is demonic deception. It is deception that is a veil over the eyes of otherwise people who appear to be rational, logical, clear-thinking individuals that can provide analysis through rational thought on any other number of subjects, but when it comes to this one, they seem incapable of connecting the dots that, as you have so eloquently described, are present for everyone to see. There has to be, in my view, a spiritual component of blindness that has a purpose and a goal for that blindness. That's my take on it. Folks, listen, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a break now for our sponsors. And when we come back, if there are any questions in the queue that you would like to ask IQ, we're going to do that. I don't have Kathy with me this evening, so she is not able to check social media. But folks, if you have a question on social media, put it out there. Perhaps somebody in the queue will keep track of that, and we'll get your question answered right after these messages from our sponsors. Hi friends, Pastor Mike Spaulding here to tell you about the Go Therefore 2019 conference. This year's gathering will be at the University of Northwest Ohio Event Center, July 26th and 27th. The conference will conclude Sunday, July 28th at Calvary Chapel of Lima. This is the largest gathering of acclaimed Bible teachers, researchers, and prophecy experts anywhere in the United States. Here's our speaker list. Author, Bible teacher, and host of the Kingdom Intelligence Briefing, Dr. Michael Lake. Bradley Dean, host of Sons of Liberty Radio. Author and founder and director of Peacemakers Outreach, Dr. John Diamond. Russ Disdar of Shatter the Darkness Ministries. Coach Dave Daubenmire of Pass the Salt Ministries. Pastor and author Dr. Carl Gallups. Researcher Carl Teichribb. Publisher of the Wisconsin Christian News, Rob Pugh. Author Douglas Woodward. Prophecy expert John Haller, David Arthur of Alphabet Man Ministries, filmmaker Tom Dunn, researcher David Paxton, cybersecurity and artificial intelligence researcher Mark Trump, Created Equal founder Mark Harrington, The Last Evangelist filmmaker David Heavener, author, researcher, and lecturer L.A. Marzulli, author Chad Schaefer, British filmmaker Mark Sutherland, pastor and musician Leighton Howerton, former combat veteran and author Jamie Walden, and of course, me, Dr. Mike Spaulding. Tickets are only $59. You can secure your seat for the Go Therefore conference at this website, gothereforeconference.com. This event will sell out quickly. Ticket and hotel information is at the conference website, gothereforeconference.com. Hope to see you there.
Healthy living through LifeVantage. Scientific research has validated oxidative stress as the root cause of aging and most disease. Oxidative stress is the result of the production of free radicals at the cellular level that damage our bodies. Protandim reduces free radical damage by 40% in 30 days. It does this by triggering the body's intelligence, activating the NRF2 protein, which in turn produces its own powerful protective antioxidant enzymes. LifeVantage Protandim, NRF1 and NRF2 work together to enable your body to rejuvenate itself on a massive scale, whether by upregulating your genes' ability to produce their own antioxidants, your cell's ability to produce mitochondria, or your digestive system's ability to regulate bacteria. We're helping you stay on top of the aging process while delivering the mental clarity and overall well-being you need every day to get the absolute most of your life. More information is available at www.abcgotit.com/MIKA68. www.abcgotit.com/MIKA68.
Hi friends, Works LLC is a manufacturer of custom-made holsters, mag carriers, knife sheaths, and accessories. Works is your one-stop shop for high-quality inside or outside the waistband concealed carry holster. Works LLC is a Christian and family-owned and operated company that values made in the USA. Visit Works LLC, www.werkz.com, works.com, Works LLC, 855-937-5901, 855-937-5901, Works LLC.
Hey folks, thanks for supporting our sponsors. And I do want to say also our conference coming up here July 26th and 27th. You'll want to go register, gothereforeconference.com, register there. There are still seats available because we've got a bigger room. We would have had to cut off tickets about 10 days ago. We surpassed that total, so we've got a bigger meeting room. So there's room for you to register and join us here in Lima, Ohio in 10 days on July the 26th, 27th. If you can't make it, folks, we also have live streaming available. So you can sit right in the comfort of your own home, participate with us at this conference, and be able to view all of the speakers and their presentations. And listen, that archive will be up after the conference is over. That archive will be up for 6 months. So you don't have to sit for the 2 days that it's live. You'll have 6 months to go and view all of these presentations. That's a great value. So are there any questions, first of all, before we move on? Are there any questions from anyone in the queue that you might have for IQ? If so, unmute yourself and ask your question, please. All right, then we're going to move on. IQ, we were talking during the break that there is a spiritual component to this whole inability, this seemingly blindness or deafness to everything that you described. Any rational, reasonable, logical person who's a functioning adult with everything that's happening in your fantastic analysis, you would think that they would be able to speak the truth about Islam, about Sharia law, and yet they don't. There's a spiritual component to it, isn't there?
Correct. We agree that the reason is simple now. We're now figuring it out, actually. Secularism has taken over European leaders and a lot of European people, and the same thing in America. They don't want to believe in God. It's fair enough, free country. But they want to take God out of the equation also. Well, you can't take God out of the equation. So when you lose the spiritual part of your life, then the secular part will not be able to function properly. Because in secular life, there is no love. It's only facts. Only me. The me generation, the I generation. Everything else is unimportant. Loyalty is not important. Patriotism is, in fact, you look down on it. When in fact, patriotism is not negative. Nations were created through patriotism. We speak about borders, and the leftists say there is no crisis. No other nation except the United States of America has no borders. No other nation. Russia has borders. Israel has borders. All the Muslim world has borders. The Chinese have borders. And anybody who dares to go into their territory will be shot dead. They will not be taken to camps. They will not be interrogated. They will be shot dead. It's simple. You can't be a sovereign nation without borders. It's not
That's correct.
complicated.
That's right.
Half of Latin America will come to America. The question I ask from the Americans who are listening, whether you are black or yellow or white or whatever, who do you think is going to pay for the upkeep of these illegal immigrants? You have to give them shelter. You have to give them education. You have to give them food to eat. You have to give them health to take care of. Who do you think is going to pay the hundreds of billions of dollars it's going to cost? You stupid Americans who are allowing it to happen. It's not complicated. That has nothing to do with compassion. What, you think bringing somebody illegal? What about the legal people? By the way, I am applying for a green card. Legally. Why am I doing it legally? Because when I come to America, I'm going to do something unusual. Okay? But I will be doing it legally,
Yes.
not illegally.
Yes.
So, the left equates illegal people with legal people. Why? It's going to cost me $5,000 to $10,000 and a year to a year and a half. And I'm lucky. Other people will cost them same amount of money to take them 3 to 4 years. And yet these people can come across the Rio Grande and you give them shelter. And you give them shelter, they call it concentration camp, the leftists. They know what a concentration camp is. The concentration camp was the beginning for the extermination camps. But they're calling it concentration camp. And they're complaining that they don't have enough hygiene. What I can't understand, in especially California, the odd one, they have the worst cases of filth in their country, in their state. The worst cases of people without work. The worst cases of everything, and yet they would rather spend billions of dollars that they don't have on illegals. Where is the rational thinking of the Californians, the ones who are living there? Again, we come to the same conclusion. Because they lost the spirituality.
Yeah.
They can't function. They can't function. They're not functioning.
And that also explains IQ, secularism. That also explains the absence, you've already mentioned this, the absence of love, the absence of compassion, the absence of hope, the absence of the sanctity of human life, that all human life is valuable. Secularism is really the root of Islam, because of all those things are missing, that Allah cannot be the same as the God of the Christian Bible. It is not feasible. It is irrational to believe that. And yet we have many people, Christian people, who are trying to make that argument. They are brainwashed, propagandized, indoctrinated. Or is that too forceful, IQ?
We have time to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, based entirely on the Quranic sources, that Allah is not the same as the God of the Bible. Shall I go ahead with it?
Please do.
Okay. I shall now proceed to prove that Allah is not the same as the God of the Bible based upon reciting only two of the most important verses in Muhammad's Quran. There are 30 other verses to support my conclusion. Case number 1. Al-Ma'idah chapter 5 verse 46. And in their footsteps, we, Allah, sent Jesus, the son of Mary, confirming the Torah, which is the law of Moses, that had come before him. We sent him the Injil, Gospels. Therein was guidance and light and confirmation of the Torah that had come before him. Let me explain the inherent implications of this. First, Allah proclaims in perfectly clear Arabic that it was He who has revealed the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, comprising Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, to Moses. Allah revealed it. Second, this verse also asserts that it was Allah, the God of the Muslims, who had revealed also the Gospels, all 4 Gospels, to Jesus after confirming Allah's revelations to Moses. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone with 2 brain cells of logic who knows the New Testament would also know that the Gospels were never revealed to Jesus by anyone, since they were written 50 to 100 years after Jesus was dead and resurrected. Hence, I raise the simplest of questions. How is it possible for Allah, if Allah were the same as the omniscient God of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, not know this fact? How could the angel Gabriel, the alleged messenger of Allah, who 620 years earlier predicted the arrival of Jesus as the Messiah, the Redeemer of humanity, deceive Muhammad with such a blatant lie? Allah therefore cannot possibly be the same as the God of Jesus, Moses, and Abraham. I raise case number 1. Case number 2. This is deadly. Al-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 157. I'm quoting from the Quran. They said, "We killed Christ Jesus, the son of Mary, the apostle of Allah. But they killed him not, nor crucified him. But so it was made to appear to them, and for a certainty they killed him not." They're Americans. As I had already demonstrated in case 1, the Quran declares that it was Allah who revealed the gospel to Jesus. And we know for a fact that this is not true. Let us, for an instance, be the devil's advocate by willingly allowing this utterly stupid and false lie to be accepted. I recapitulate that in case 1, Allah asserted that He revealed the Gospels Injil to Jesus. But anyone having read the Gospels would also know that all 4 Gospels assert that Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected on the 3rd day, thus totally contradicting Allah's present revelation. And there is absolutely no margin of error, either linguistically or logically, regarding the meaning of these verses. These anomalies, absurdities, and discrepancies demonstrate that Allah, the God of the Muslims, has not only shown an incredible lack of knowledge, but has in the first case totally contradicted himself from the first. Once again, I would like to point out to you the obvious. If Allah were the same as the omniscient God of Jesus, Moses, and Abraham, how is it possible that He was deceiving Muhammad or being with such blatant error? Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, Muhammad's Quran obliterates the whole concept of Christianity with this single verse, because without death and resurrection, there is no Christianity.
Amen.
Therefore, Allah cannot and is not the same as the God of the Bible, thus utterly demolishing Islam's claim that they have a religion, when in fact Islam is a cult, the cult of Muhammad. Back to you, sir. You tell me.
Yes. Powerful, powerful arguments, IQ. Is there a website that you would direct our viewers to, where they can read your articles and keep up on your research?
Yes, all they have to do is Google my name, Al-Rassooli, Alrassooli. And when you go to Google, I'll be number 1 on the pages. On the top right hand side on my website, it says go to chapters. 248 chapters. All of them are there. All the information is there, free of charge. 30 years of research, free of charge. Nobody in history, by the way, you can, again, double check it. Nobody in history, ever, an author backed up his words with money, like me. Nobody. And 1.5 million is not a joke.
That's for sure. We've got a question, IQ, from someone in the huddle. They're asking, what does IQ think of Dr. Zuhdi Jasher of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy?
Stealth jihad.
Stealth jihad, yes.
They have to
There-
figure it out. I mean,
Yes.
our American, I'm glad the whoever asked the question asked the question. This Muslim is a good man, no question about it. But please remember, you cannot be a true Muslim without jihad. It is impossible. You cannot be a true Muslim without being Sharia compliant. Because in Islam, it's Islam, the Quran says, either you are Sharia compliant or you are an apostate. Simple, not complicated. You cannot have a moderate Muslim, a radical Muslim, and you can't have these shades. By the way, 3 years ago, Erdogan, the dictator of Turkey, in a meeting with the leaders of European Union, told them, I'm sick and tired of you people talking about shades of Islam. Islam is Islam. So he agrees with me.
Yeah.
Islam is Islam.
Hmm.
It's all stealth jihad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Jared, would you bring up that other link about Fred Fleets? Yeah. So Fred Fleets, reports are coming out that President Trump is considering nominating the Center for Security Policy president, Fred Fleets, to be the next director of the National Intelligence Office. Now, that will send shockwaves throughout Washington, D.C. If you're not familiar with the Center for Security Policy, Frank Gaffney's work there, Jim Simpson's, many others. I know when I start naming people, I'm going to forget some. They have free ebooks, white papers, research, Center for Security Policy. So if President Trump, this is a signal, in my opinion, and then I'm gonna let you weigh in here, IQ, but this is a signal, in my opinion, of President Trump's seriousness to address the threat that is Islam in America. I'm praying and I'm hoping that he's tired of keeping his mouth shut and he's prepared to unleash a bulldog that's going to speak the truth. Everything you've been talking about, IQ, is going to speak the truth about what is happening in America before it's too late. Now, I know, IQ, that you know Frank Gaffney very, very well, so I'll let you speak to this. What would you think of President Trump naming the current president of the Center for Security Policy to his cabinet level position?
excellent idea. By the way, President Trump, people are, mostly they're very stupid. I'm not kidding. I'm not being nasty. Hitler in Mein Kampf in 1923, he wrote in his Mein Kampf, public, I mean, it's not, he said 99% of human beings are stupid. They want to be led, and they want to be led by strong people.
Yeah.
Before he was elected, I don't know if you remember the story that he recited as a poem of a woman saving a freezing snake. And she takes the snake and puts it to her bosom to defrost her. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The snake bit her.
Yes.
And the woman said to the snake, "But why did you bite me? I saved your life." He said, "You're stupid. You know I'm a snake." He was talking about Islam, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This was the metaphor for Islam. Nobody ever said that. It was a metaphor for Islam. You take them in, what do? This is the most remarkable thing. Muslims get out of their crap hole countries to come to the West. And what do they do when they come to the West? They're running away from Sharia. What do they come to do with the West? They bring Sharia to the West. Are you with me? It's really important. They are running away from Sharia in their God-forsaken countries to come to freedom. We give them freedom, and what do they do with our freedom? Destroy us to bring Sharia. This is the snake. Yes, I agree with him. And I'm telling you, the leftists are going to go out of their mind.
That's
They are going to go out of their mind.
They are IQ. That was exact. Someone asked me that today. Had I heard that, and when they told me that President Trump was thinking of nominating Fred Fleets, I said, Democrats' heads are going to explode if that happens. They will lose their minds, or what little bit is left of their minds anyway, because the Center for Security Policy, they are about as straight shooting on Islam as anyone is these days outside of IQ al-Rassooli. Amen?
It's true. By the way, it's true. That's exactly what they are. They have been revealing the facts about Islam. There is Robert Spencer. I don't know if you know about him.
Yes.
He's very good.
Yep.
Brigitte Gabriel, Ariane Hassan Ali from Somalia. These people have experienced Islam.
Yes.
They are telling the American people what Islam is all about. They're telling the intelligence services. They're telling the political leaders, and all of these political leaders are in denial because they lost their spirit. They have no spirit. The component that keeps America great is gone. People don't realize that the whole of the American Constitution and all the items in the Constitution are from the Bible. Everything is from the Bible. These people who created the proclamation were biblical people. They were Christians. They believed in God. They believed in the rule of law. And yet, they don't teach it in America. They haven't been teaching the American Constitution in America for years. It should be mandatory in
Yes.
every school, in every university. It should be mandatory. It should be a subject that you cannot pass an exam unless you pass this one. It should be mandatory. And don't talk to me about freedom of speech. I don't do hear about it. There's no such thing as unlimited freedom of speech. It doesn't exist. No country on earth would allow what America is allowed. No country.
Yes, absolutely right. So we've been dumbed down. We, the American people, have been deliberately dumbed down, and this has gone on for decades. I did a real quick search today, IQ, and I found out that in 1995, so that's 24 years ago already, President Bill Clinton, big surprise, directed the U.S. Secretary of Education to provide every public school district in America with a statement of principles addressing the extent to which religious expression and activities are permitted in the public schools. And it was that landmark document that opened the door for Islam to enter the classroom. And of course, we see the results now. The Bible is banned, but Islam is taught. It's a travesty.
Of course. But again, and again, and again, I come to the same conclusion. It is we, the people, the parents of the children, who pay tens of thousands of dollars, but are too stupid to go and tell the head teacher, listen, I am paying you. You don't teach them this way. We want you to teach them the Bible. Nobody is doing it.
Yeah.
We, the people, failed themselves. We, the parents.
Yes.
And they are still failing them now as we speak. Why? In many universities, the highest universities in America, are literally stopping conservatives from having any words in the university and allowing the Muslims and the leftists all the freedom. And yet, the parents are not doing anything.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Censorship at every level of the truth. Censorship of the truth, folks. We see it. Social media is completely sold out to this, well, I'll call it a red-green axis, if you will, to borrow a title from a James Simpson book, Red-Green Axis, which talks about the Marxist Islamic connection and what they're doing within America. They're deliberately, and even today I saw some information where it's been revealed, and we've known this for a while. Now we've got the proof. Go research it yourself, because we're out of time. Go research it yourself. But all the major social media platforms, they have populated their staffs with Marxists, leftists, and you wonder why conservative voices, Christian voices, voices of reason are being silenced. That's why. It's a deliberate plan. They're doing it ahead of the 2020 election because they do not want a repeat Trump 2. They don't want that. IQ, thank you so much for joining me today. We just scratched the surface, folks. We're going to have to do this again. And IQ, I know you're willing to do that, and I appreciate that. Folks, listen, renewing our minds is not an option. I'll see you next week. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Take care.